I got to ask you about Telegram, the company. I got to meet some of the brilliant engineers that work there. Telegram runs lean relative to other technology companies that achieve the scale that Telegram does. It has very few employees. So how many people are on the core team? Let's say the core engineering team.
The core engineering team is about 40 people. This includes back-end, front-end, designers, system administrators.
Can you speak to the philosophy behind running a company with so few employees?
Well, what we realized really early is that quantity of employees doesn't translate to quality of the product they produce. In many cases, it's the opposite. If you have too many people, they have to coordinate their efforts, constantly communicate, and 90% of their time will be spent on coordinated the small pieces of work they're responsible for between each other. The other problem with having too many employees is that some of them won't get enough work to do. And if they don't get enough work to do, they demotivate everybody else by their mere existence. They're still there, they're still getting the salary, but they don't do anything. And if they don't do anything, more often than not, they will start trying to find their purpose elsewhere. Maybe inside your team, but not by doing productive work, but by finding problems that don't exist within the team. And that can disrupt the team and the mood inside it even further. Also, when you intentionally don't allow some of your team members to hire more people to help them, they will be forced to automate things. In our case, we have tens of thousands of servers around the world, almost 100,000, distributed across several continents and data centers. If you try to manage this system manually without automation, you will probably end up hiring thousands of people, tens of thousands of people. But if you rely on algorithms and the team is forced to put together algorithms in order to manage it, then it becomes much more scalable, much more efficient, and interestingly, much more reliable as well.
And more resilient to the changing geopolitics, to the changing technology, all of that. Because if you automate the distributed aspect of the data storage and all the compute, then that's going to be resilient to everything the world throws at you. I suppose if you have people managing all of it, it becomes stale quickly.
Yes, humans are attack vectors. And if you have a distributed system that runs itself automatically, you have a chance at increasing the security of speed of your service. This is what we did with Telegram, while also making it much more reliable, because if some part of the network goes down, you can still switch to the other parts of it.
Yeah, one of the big ways you protect user privacy is that you store the data. The infrastructure side of Telegram is distributed across many legal jurisdictions with the decryption keys. So it's encrypted in the cloud. The decryption keys are split and kept in different locations so that no single government or entity can access the data. Can you explain the strength of this approach?
The way we designed Telegram is we never wanted to have any humans, any employees have any access to private messaging data. That's why since 2012, when we've been trying to come up with this design, we always invested a lot of effort into making sure that nobody can mess with it, Like if you hire an employee or any of the existing employee, they can't break the system in a way that would allow them to access messages of users. And then, of course, we launched end-to-end encrypted messaging that is even more protected, but it has certain limitations. So you still have to rely on encrypted cloud. So an interesting engineering challenge was how you make sure that no point of failure can be created within your team or outside.
So no employee can even access user messages. So that's the thing. We're talking about encryption, we talk about privacy, we talk about security, all these kinds of things. I think the number one thing that people are concerned about which there's also misinformation, is about private messages. So Telegram is very, very protective of the private messages of users. So you're saying employees never can access the private messages. Have any governments or intelligence agencies ever accessed private user messages in the past?
No, never. Telegram has never shared a single private message with anyone, including governments and intelligence services. If you try to access any server in any of the data center locations, it's all encrypted. You can extract all the hard drives and analyze it, but you won't get anything. It's all encrypted in the way that is undecipherable. That was very important for us. That's why we can say with confidence there hasn't been ever a leakage of data, any leak of data from Telegram, not in terms of private messages, not in terms of, say, contact lists.
Do you see in the future a possible scenario where you might share user private messages with governments or with intelligence agencies?
No. We design a system in a way that it's impossible. It would require us to change the system, and we won't do that because we made a promise to our users. We would rather shut Telegram down in a certain country than do that.
So that's like one of the principles you operate under, is you're going to protect user privacy.
I think it's fundamental. Without the right to privacy, people can't feel fully free and protected.
I mean, this is a good place to ask. I'm sure you're pressured by all kinds of people, all kinds of organizations to share private data. Where do you find the strength and the fearlessness to say no to everybody, including powerful intelligence agencies, including powerful governments, influential, powerful people?
I guess part of it is just me being me. I stood up for myself and for my values since I was a little kid. I had issues with my teachers because I would point out their mistakes during classes. And at the end of the day, what's important is to remind yourself that you have nothing to lose. Like, they can think they blackmail you with something, they can threaten you with something, but what is it they really can really do to you? Like, worst case, they can kill you. But that brings us back to the first part of our discussion. There's no point living your life in fear. As for Telegram, it's incredibly successful, but if we lose one market or two markets, or pretty much all of the markets, I don't care that much. It won't affect me, it won't affect my lifestyle in any way. I will still be doing my push-ups, So
Yeah.
you you don't like encryption, you don't like privacy, you think you should ban encryption in your country, like the European Union is trying to do now for all the member states. Well, go ahead and do that. We'll just quit this market. We won't operate there. It's not that important. They all think that somehow we profit from their citizens, and the only goal tech companies have is extracting revenues. And it's true, most tech companies are like this. But there are projects like Telegram, which are a bit different. And I'm not sure they realize that.
So for you, the value of maintaining your integrity in relation to your principles is more important than anything else. And of course, we should say that you also have full ability and control to do just that because you, Pavel Durov, own 100% of Telegram. So there's no other anybody with a say on this question.
There are no shareholders, which is quite unique.
Very unique. I don't think there's anything even close to that in any major tech company.
And this allows us to operate the way we operate, to build this project and maintain it based on certain fundamental principles, which, by the way, I think everybody believes in. I think the right to privacy is included in the constitution of most countries, at least most Western countries, but it's still under attack almost every week. And it often starts with well-meaning proposals. Oh, we have to fight crime. We have to do that. We have to protect the children. But at the end of the day, the result is the same. People lose their right to such fundamental thing as privacy. They sometimes lose their right to express themselves, to assemble. And this is a slippery slope that we witnessed in pretty much every autocratic country, or country that used to be free and then became autocratic. No dictator in the world ever said, let's just strip you away from your rights because I want more power to myself and I want you to be miserable. They all justified it with very reasonable sounding justifications. And then it came in stages gradually. And after a few years, people would find themselves in a position when they're helpless. They can't protest. Every message they send is monitored. They can't assemble. It's over.
So you see Telegram as a place that people from all walks of life, from every nation, can have a place to speak their mind, have a voice. In the context, in the geopolitical context that you're mentioning, that governments, when they become autocratic, naturally, is the way of the world, human nature, and the nature of governments, they become more censorious. They begin to censor and always justifying it in their minds, perhaps assuming that they're doing good.
Perhaps some of them assume they are doing good. But interestingly, it always results in the state accumulating more power at the expense of the individual. And then where does it stop? We humans are not very good at finding the right balance. And in this case, the right balance between chaos and order, between freedom and structure. We tend to go to extremes.
I think you still consider yourself a libertarian. There is something about government that always, over time, naturally builds a larger and larger bureaucracy. And in that machine of bureaucracy, it accumulates more and more power. And it's not always that one individual member of that bureaucracy is the one that corrupts the initial principles on which the government was founded, but just something over time you forget. You begin to censor, you begin to limit the freedoms of the individual, the ability of the individuals to speak, to have a voice, to vote. It just gradually happens that way.
And the government is not some abstract notion. The government consists of people. And these people have goals. They would naturally be inclined to increase their level of influence, to have more subordinates, to have more resources. And that's how you end up in an endless loop of ever increasing taxes, ever increasing regulation, which ultimately just suffocates free market, free enterprise, and free speech. So you do want to have very, very strict limitations on the extent the government can increase its powers at the expense of citizens. ironically, you don't have those limitations. You're supposed, in all countries which are considered to be free, it's supposed to be the constitution that protects everybody. But interestingly, it doesn't work always this way. They are able to find very tricky phrasings in order to carve out exceptions. And then the exception becomes the rule.